Oh, it's Wednesday again, and her day off. She cranked out another video. Does this mean every Wednesday you have to be afraid now to get on YouTube? Good afternoon, YouTubers. It's another Wednesday afternoon, and welcome to another show. Maybe I should start calling this the Wednesday show. I don't know. What do you think? Hey, I read something fascinating today on Twitter, actually. It said that wearing green makes you look slimmer on camera. I'm gonna have to try that one of these days. It also said that wearing yellow makes you look fatter. Now, that I believe because I'm wearing this really odd shade of yellow right now and I look like Porky Pig. And on top of that, it's common knowledge that being on camera adds 10 pounds. So you add 10 pounds from the camera, 10 pounds from this funky shade of yellow that I'm wearing, and there you go. You have no idea what I really look like in person. This is no joke. I wouldn't kid you. I'm really as skinny as Dick Van Dyke in person. Yeah, and speaking of Dick Van Dyke, I'll tell you a little secret. He got his start by being a disc jockey, and a disc jockey in the armed forces, no less, who later transitioned to television. Now, where have I heard that story before? Oh, yes, that's right, you, honey. So I know now where I went wrong in my career. I should have joined the Army. Yes. When I was 18, I could have joined the Army and I'd probably be a big star by now. Anyhow, let me tell you, at 87, he's still hot. You gotta love a mature man. The only problem is I haven't found one yet. Yes, I mean you, Ed. Yes, even at 79 years old, he still acted like a kid. But look, if you want to be in my skit, just like go with the flow, okay? All right. Anyhow, there's something else that I saw today on Twitter that was kind of fascinating. There's an account on Twitter called Fact Book, I believe it is, and it just has these little random facts all along. Man, they must have like 10 people writing for them, you know, to gather all these interesting little things up every day. But one of today's entries was that seeing a spider on Halloween is really a deceased loved one nearby. And I thought, well, ain't that cute, because I hate spiders. And what does Ed do on Halloween? But he sends me a Halloween card full of spiders. Drawn spiders. They weren't like pressed in there. But knowing him, I wouldn't doubt it if he would have done that. So I don't know what to think of that now. If I see these spiders on Halloween, it's like, that's going to be a big joke from Ed. Like the one time, well, you remember, maybe, I was thinking about that. I was at the Winn-Dixie parking lot thinking about this very thing because, you know, Ed was sort of like chewing me out about my fear of spiders. Oh, they're just doing what they do, you know. And then he sends me that Halloween card. And I was thinking about all this, and I looked down at the ground, and there was this huge huntsman spider right at my foot. And I was wearing sandals, no doubt. I don't usually do that, but I just happened to be wearing open-toed shoes that day, and there was this huge spider right at my foot scurrying along. And it's like, oh my god, is that a sign or what? I didn't know, but so yes, yes, Joker. Yes, Ed, I know the joke is still on me. Guess what? Now, the last video I made, I mentioned that another season was going by where I was not going to be able to watch football. I done missed the first games. Green Bay humiliated themselves against the Kansas City Chiefs. I suppose I should be a fan of the Kansas City Chiefs, but I'm not. They got too much red. I am a fan of the Packers, and the Chiefs really whoop-assed them. I think it was 28-3 or 21-3, or I can't remember now. It was either 28. I'm sure that's what it was. 28-8 or 21-3. You know, a little dyslexia there. They all kind of look alike. 28-3. Let's just say it was that. I got the headline at work. So, Michigan, however, they won their first game. I don't remember that score now at all, but it was pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. Well, guess what? I got my cable turned on today. I'm going to get to watch football this weekend. I have no clue who Green Bay is playing. Michigan is going to play Notre Dame, one of their big rivals, so I'm really looking forward to that. So I'm very excited about that. Hey, and speaking about, excuse me, speaking about television and things in Kansas City, I learned something really fascinating yesterday. Okay, Ed used to work at KSHB, Channel 41. I happened to be following someone on Twitter from KSHB. And then down here, we have WTSP Channel 10. I know some people there, and I'm following some people there. Anyhow, one of the people I'm following is being followed by the person that I'm following at KSHB. I thought, is this a small world or what? There is one more reason I'm making this video. Now, you remember last week I had mentioned a couple of videos I had made last year about supernatural occurrences, and I'd stated last week that I had 2 more videos to do. I did one last week, and then I thought I'm going to go ahead and just make the last one this week. Now, this was on April Fool's Day. I should have looked up through my papers what year it was. I can't remember exactly. I'm thinking 1994, but I could be wrong. Somewhere around that area, though. I had a lot of friends on the railroad. Well, I knew just about everybody on the Union Pacific back in that day. And I always kept my police scanner on to listen to the railroad activities. I like to hear which train's coming at mile mark or whatever, and what the local switcher was doing. Well, on the railroad channel, I heard him call in that a man had just plowed himself into the side of their train. I only lived a couple blocks away, so I ran down there. I got down there before the police even got down there. And this man had plowed his truck into the side of the hopper that had been crossing the road, and it burst into flames. I got right up to the truck and I looked at him. Of course, he was dead. I got to see him sitting there in the truck. He didn't look really burned or anything. There was a little bit of soot type stuff on him, but I just remember thinking he looked just like a mannequin. Even though he was human and had only been dead a couple minutes, he looked like a mannequin. I'll never forget that as long as I live. Now, after the police got there, they covered it all up with a blue tarp, so I was actually kind of fortunate to have been able to walk right up to the truck and see it. And don't be grossed out, but there was also a big chunk of meat sitting in the middle of the road. Anyhow, I remember sensing at the time there was this really oppressive evil in the air. Evil spirit, a cloud of evil. It was very oppressive. Now, the next day or so, I was talking to somebody who happened to have been at the site. I didn't realize it at the time, and they said to me, there's such a evil in the air. So, wow, yeah, I felt it too. So I thought that was sort of amazing that someone else felt the same thing. And at the time, when we were there at the site, we had no clue what was going on. It came out later in the news. Now here's a part, though, that wasn't in the news. It turns out this man was a Satan worshiper. Now, I found that out because I happened to have known someone who had letted a room out to him a few years prior, and they informed me of this. Well, that's clue number 1. Anyhow, the other thing is what had happened. It's pretty tragic. This man and his wife apparently were separated and heading toward a divorce, and he blamed her best friend for talking her into it. So what he did was he tied both of them up naked in his bedroom, and he raped the friend and shot her in the head while the wife was tied up right there beside, made her look. and then he stepped outside to have a cigarette. Now, from this point on, some of it's speculation. They think that he was going to do the wife next and then maybe even kill himself. Well, while he had stepped outside for the cigarette, the wife had managed to break free. She ran naked a couple of blocks down to this convenience store. The convenience store was on the main street of town, which is also actually a major Kansas highway. Anyhow, when the man came back in, saw that the wife had broke free, he knew he was in trouble, so he hopped in his pickup truck and fled down the highway / main street. Now, further up the street a few blocks was where the train had blocked the street. There was a hopper right in the middle of Main Street. So the whole right-hand lanes, there was 2 lanes of traffic, they were both stopped for the train. The oncoming 2 lanes were completely free. He gunned it as fast as he could. He managed to get it up to about 65 miles an hour, they're thinking. Smashed into the side of the train, burst into flames, and died. That was a very tragic incident. Now, here's something else, too. I happen to live a couple blocks down from the junkyard they ended up taking the truck to. And at night, it was my habit anyhow of walking the railroad tracks at night to gaze at the stars and moon. Anyhow, so I took the railroad tracks down to the junkyard, and I happened to see the truck. It happened to be parked right there by the tracks. I got a very good view. I went right up to it and looked inside. Here is like the back of the truck cab, and then here was like the dashboard. I mean, they were like very, very close, a couple inches or more. I mean, there's like hardly anything there. Now, smushed in that small space at the time would have been the man's body plus the entire bench seat of the truck, all squished to nothing. So that was something to think about, let me tell you. And that's just the other experience I wanted to share, that I happened to been at this incident, and without knowing anything that was going on, could feel that evil presence in the air, and not just me, but other people too who had been there and who also had no clue what was going on. And by the way, in the news this morning, the headline broke about Ariel Castro. He hanged himself in jail last night. You remember who he was. He's that guy in Cleveland, Ohio, who kidnapped those 3 women and held them hostage for 10 years. I know a lot of people today are really outraged because they think he escaped justice. He's only been in prison, just like a month or 2 after his trial. He was sentenced to like life plus 1,000 years, and he hangs himself, and so he's already like, out of prison, so to say. So a lot of people are pretty outraged on it. Though not everyone, some people say, well, at least we don't have to spend our tax dollars on him. But what people are upset about is they think that he escaped justice. He didn't escape justice. Don't worry. He still has to face the afterlife. And with that, see you later, YouTubers.